Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of The Bullet. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Joining me, not from the Finger Lakes region of New York, coming at us from I'm going to say the great American Southeast, Dan Wos. He's, of course, the author of the Good Gun, Bad Guy series of books, and his radio show that happens on the weekends is the Loaded Mike Show. Dan, thanks for coming along for the ride, man.
Hey, it's always a pleasure, Paul. Thanks for having me. I am at Biden's balloon site right now on the East Coast.
Biden's balloon site? No kidding. You get anything wash up on the beach near you?
No, but I'm looking out. I can't put the camera on because it's too bright. But right out there on the horizon, we saw some ships. So there are some pretty big ships out there. Not sure exactly what they're doing, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool. Getting social media hooked up here. I had some issues getting connected, so I'm a little behind the curve on getting social media hooked up, but I do believe I have everything hooked up. If you are watching on the Polite Society Podcast, Facebook, or YouTube pages, just go ahead and comment on the video, and we'll get your comments up and get them on the air. If you're watching anywhere else, head over to Twitter, hit your tweet machine, and use the hashtag #TheBullet. We'll get those and get them on the air as well. Dan, to get started today, starting with a story off USA Today. It's not a news source I use often because it is so far skewed to the left, but today I'm going to because they quoted my boss. Story says the Supreme Court has said a lot recently about what the Second Amendment means. The next question for justices may be, who does it not apply to? A series of criminal cases percolating in lower federal courts are striking a question about whether the government may deny someone, such as a person convicted of a nonviolent felony, access to a gun. Experts on both sides of the gun debate say the question is likely to make it to the Supreme Court soon. I'm going to skip down in the story to where they quote Alan Gottlieb. He says, the government shouldn't be able to deny an American access to a gun just because they might smoke marijuana, now legal in many states, or once committed a nonviolent crime. Eventually, he said, a case like this is probably going to make its way to the Supreme Court. Dan, I think you and I are almost in lockstep on this one. If somebody is out of prison, they ought to be able to defend themselves. If they're so dangerous they can't be trusted with a gun, why are they out of prison?
Yeah, exactly. Well, if you ask some of these Democrat governors, they're letting people out of prison in the hundreds at a time, and then they're simultaneously trying to disarm good people who haven't committed any crimes. So that's an imbalance right there that we need to fix because it's dangerous for good people. But you're right. If you committed a crime so bad that you have to lose your constitutional and God-given rights, wouldn't you be in jail? I mean, and if not, why not?
Yeah, you're exactly right. If they're so dangerous they cannot be trusted with a firearm, then they probably shouldn't be trusted in public, period. Because let's face it, there's things that are a lot more deadly than firearms out there.
Yeah, and the way I look at it is, crimes, or laws they're trying to use laws to prevent people from doing bad things, and really, if you prosecuted the people for doing bad things, then other people would say, oh, well, I'm not going to do that. But the problem is they're not even prosecuting a lot of the violent felons. And so that's where the laws are so they're so twisted and ineffective. But laws are very effective in controlling guess who? The law abiding, right? So you have to ask yourself, are the laws really intended to stop violence and stop crime, or are they intended to keep good people under control? And I'm really, after being in this conversation and in this Second Amendment realm for as long as I've been, it's pretty clear to me why we have gun laws. It's not to stop the bad guys at all. It's to keep good people under control.
Yeah, absolutely. Got a comment in here from My Take on the YouTube side. Looking for a new winter home. That is kind of what your modus operandi is right now, right, Dan? You're down there looking for a place that's a little warmer than New York in February.
Yeah, I'm outside right now, and I'm on the ocean now, and it's pretty good here. So, but yeah, looking primarily on the East Coast. We're keeping our big media production studio in New York State, and we'll always be attached to New York State because we have lots of business and real estate and stuff like that. But it's going to be nice to have a place to get away to, where the weather's nicer and the politics are nicer.
There you go. Well, there are stirrings that South Carolina may go for permitless carry. They're going to have to rush if they want to be number 26. Florida and Nebraska are really racing to get that number 26 spot. But if South Carolina comes in 27, 28, 29, as long as they get it.
Yeah, South Carolina is pretty good when it comes to that stuff. However, there's a couple little places where I don't particularly care for it. I'm licensed in New York and Florida, and I can carry in just about, well, probably about, I think 30 some, maybe even 40 some states. But the interesting thing about South Carolina, which is unique, is that if you have a license from another state, you need to be a resident of that state. So it's real tricky. There's a lot of stuff that you have to watch out for. You have to be careful.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to move on to our next story. This one off yahoo.com. Again, they quoted my boss. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis wants to ease restrictions on gun ownership, a stance that exploits a weakness of Donald Trump and shores up a key segment of the GOP primary debate base. But DeSantis' move highlights a dilemma for Republicans in general elections, where their strident support for gun rights threatens to cost them votes with an electorate that backs tougher restrictions after a rise in mass shootings, most recently on the campus of Michigan State University on Monday night. A lot further down the story, they did a really good job of blasting the right to keep and bear arms, but skipping down in the story, Alan Gottlieb, founder of the Second Amendment Foundation, a gun rights group, said he expects GOP contenders to be assertive on protecting gun ownership rights. It's extremely important, he said, if you're going to win a nomination, say for president, you can't be even neutral on the issue. You've got to be out there defending the right to keep and bear arms. Gottlieb, who visited the Trump White House multiple times to discuss policy, applauded Trump for consistently discussing gun rights in stump speeches and for his judicial nominations. He also said Nikki Haley, who became Trump's first official challenger on Tuesday, was praised by gun owners for her record when she was South Carolina's governor. Final quote from my boss, I don't know how they differentiate themselves, he said to the GOP field. What gun owners are going to look for, though, is winnability. Who has the best chance to actually win? I'm going to say this. DeSantis has not declared, but he's that far away from it. Haley has declared. Trump has declared. I don't know, man. Myself, it's going to be just the same as it was 6 years ago when we were debating on whether Trump was, I'm sorry, it was 8 years ago when we were debating whether Trump was going to run initially or not. I'm kind of on the wait and see and see what happens. But Nikki Haley is not necessarily anti-gun. DeSantis is talking a great talk right now. What's your thoughts, Dan?
Well, the first thought is we all know that where there are more good people carrying firearms, there's less violence and less crime. Where there's more gun restrictions, there's more violence and more crime. So, and I really do think that Ron DeSantis has a pretty good grip on acting constitutionally. You know, I mean, I've been happy with that, pretty much everything he's done so far. Um, I didn't vote for Trump in the primaries. I voted for Cruz, but I was real happy with a lot of the things that President Trump did. I was unhappy with some of the things he said with respect to the Second Amendment. So let's just hope Ron DeSantis can stay on track with this and do the right thing. I think he will. I really am starting to have. I'm starting to believe that he could be the guy. Although I still like Trump, so I'm on the fence with it. I'm going to have to wait, just like you. I'm going to have to wait and see what happens.
Well, and I will say this: the single most positive thing Trump has going for him is Amy Coney Barrett. That nomination, that Supreme Court justice, gave us the Bruin decision, and gave us what will, in my opinion, will eventually be the defeat of the NFA in court. I think the National Firearms Act will go down.
Let's not forget those Supreme Court appointments. And you know what? And the Democrats are still seething over it.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and I want to move on. The next one, this is a story close to you, man. Well, not physically close right now, but it is a New York story. After months of litigation against New York's latest gun control law, several liberal groups are standing in opposition to its measure requiring concealed carry permit applicants to register their social media accounts, saying it's overbroad and unconstitutional. The Knight First Amendment Institute at Columbia University filed an amicus brief in a lawsuit challenging New York's Concealed Carry Improvement Act, agreeing with its challengers in part that a requirement to register social media handles with the government violates the First Amendment rights to speak anonymously online. The law went into effect last September with the backing of Governor Kathy Hochul in response to the Supreme Court ruling that any gun restriction demands a test rooted in the Second Amendment's text as informed by history. The brief was joined by 5 groups: the Liberal Gun Group, the National African American Gun Association, the Asian Pacific American Gun Owners Association, an LGBT group called the Operation Blazing Sword and Pink Pistols, and one that I would not consider a liberal group. That would be the DC Project Foundation, all of which opposed opposition to the social media registration requirement for permits. Dan, if they've lost the liberals, they've just lost. What do you think, man?
Yeah, well, we saw this a little bit in 2020 when gun sales started to skyrocket after the left-wing riots that happened all over the country. And what we saw was gun sales increased exponentially, and we found out that a good majority, if not almost half of the new gun purchases were first-time gun owners, first-time buyers, which tells you that they were non-gun owners prior. So when we had the riots, you had I would say a lot of left-wingers, jumping on the gun bandwagon, so to speak. Maybe these guns aren't so bad because they were in danger and they wanted to be able to protect themselves. This is kind of the same thing. When it comes right down to it, politics are politics, and we often go to our own corner. But when it comes down to your safety and the safety of your family, it's a different ball game. Politics kind of go out the window, and you do what you have to do to protect yourself.
Yeah, I'm going back into the story a little bit. They're talking about their First Amendment right to speak anonymously online. And I've never read that in the First Amendment, but I'm not saying it's not guaranteed in the Constitution. I'm not a legal scholar. So.
Oh, the anonymous part you're talking about.
Yeah. So Look, am I pro government? Nope. But I've never made that a secret, and I've never created an anonymous
Right.
social media account to say that. I say it publicly as me. Let's get a couple comments in here. Going back to the talk about politicians, MC says you can trust John McCain now. Strangely enough, in death he votes with the Democrats. And then I want to get to 1-500 Magnum put up. He says Trump literally said take the guns first and do due process later and bam bump stocks. Screw that guy. No way in hell will I support him. He did say that.
I know.
That is accurate, and it's concerning. If we go back to a choice between Biden and Trump or any of the Democrats and Trump, I'll go Trump because he did give us a Supreme Court that's giving us our rights back. So I wasn't happy with that either. And I think that's I was referring to that earlier. We didn't like that. Luckily Trump got back on track. People must have been in his ear saying, "What are you talking about? Can't be saying this stuff. This is awful." And then it seems like he got back on track, and he did a lot of great things. But no, I was extremely pissed off about that. That was I was not happy with it. Sorry, but I'm losing daylight here, Paul. So I'm sorry about the. That's quite all right, man. I can still see you.
Okay.
And worst case scenario, if it goes really bad, I can always just pop up our logo. But
okay.
No, we're fine. We're fine for now. I think we're getting enough light off your screen. Clovertack has a great comment here. Let me get this up. If we are in fact endowed with certain inalienable rights and freedom of speech is one of those rights, then why would being anonymous be a problem? Just posing the question. Yeah.
Good point.
So let's go ahead. I want to skip down a story because we're coming up. We're about 13 minutes left. So
let me see if I'm going to see if I can get some more light.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and just continue here. The Indiana House Republicans approved a bill Tuesday that would begin a state-funded handgun training program for teachers that critics argue would wrongly encourage more guns in classrooms across the state. The Republican-backed bill passed 71-24 vote, predominantly on party lines, with supporters saying the training would give teachers opportunities to defend themselves and students if needed. State law currently allows school districts to permit teachers to be armed, but no training is mandated. Sadly, it's something that's necessary for the tragic world we live in today, said bill sponsor Republican Representative Jim Lucas of Seymour. The House Education Committee passed the bill 9-4 on party lines earlier this month. In that hearing, Lucas stressed the training program would be voluntary and paid for by the state, with about 40 hours of instruction for the teachers. I think this is an absolutely fantastic bill. It doesn't require teachers to get training, and I'm against mandatory training, but it pays for training if they want it.
A lot of times the anti-gun crowd will say, well, you gun owners, you want to arm all the teachers, and you want to pass out the pistols, and you want the lunch lady to have a gun and all this stuff. And that's not true at all. We want people who are inclined to carry a gun. That can be your concealed carrier who might be a retired police officer who's now a teacher. Might be just any teacher who has their concealed carry, or just a gun owner. I mean, there's no reason why we should have the kids unprotected. But we don't necessarily want to. We're not going to pass out the guns. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, but we still hear it from the anti-gun crowd. What we want are the people who are inclined and capable of carrying a gun, in the classroom to be able to do so. I don't understand what the problem is. And then we hear, I was on a show, I had a show just last week or something, and the question was, well, what if they give you these hypotheticals. Well, what if one of the students attacks the teacher and wrestles the teacher to the ground and takes the gun, and all this stuff. And it's like, when has that ever happened?
Yeah.
Tell me one incident when the teacher was in the classroom with a concealed carry and a student attacked her or him and took the gun. When? Give me one example. It's never happened. It's a hypothetical situation that they create to try to steer the conversation away from teachers, armed teachers. I think teachers and staff should be armed if they're inclined to do so.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one more thing, Paul, let me just mention, the reason there have been so many school killings is because in 1990, when Joe Biden introduced the Gun-Free School Zones Act as part of the Crime Control Act, school killings have doubled since then. And they increase at twice the rate of increase every 10 years. Twice the rate of increase every 10 years, school killings go up. Why? Because we've created a culture of anti-gun, where guns are removed from campuses, signs are put up on the building that says gun-free zone. You might as well say, come in and kill everybody, because nobody's armed. And this is how this stuff happens. So I say, yes, let's put people who are inclined to carry back in the schools. Armed security is fine too. We're doing that up in New York.
Yep.
Starting to do some of that. But yeah, let's protect the kids first and foremost.
All right, I want to get a couple comments in here. Clovertac says, daylight savings time is coming soon, Dan. Just hold on.
No, it's getting dark. It's almost pitch dark out here now, so sorry about that. And we had fun. We had fun in Las Vegas too. We got to hang out a little bit, so that was a good time.
Very cool. This one, I do not get the name of it. It probably comes from the Polite Society Podcast Listeners Group, because this goes in there as well. But the Facebook user, everyone does not work for a gun organization. Free speech, anonymous or not, should be protected. I'm going to say this. For the First Amendment, I'm almost like the Second. The Second Amendment, I am an absolutist. I believe you should be able to buy anything you can afford, cash and carry. Government doesn't know about it. I'm an absolutist there. Yeah, the more I think about it, and I've only thought about it since we brought it up on the air, really, is that, doggone this, I got to mute that phone. Anonymous speech. My worry with anonymous speech is the calling for armed insurrection. That's my only worry with anonymous speech, and I could be talked out of that one.
Yeah, the anonymous thing is interesting. I'm not sure why they're asking for that, but when we talk about free speech, the argument that always comes up from the anti-Bill of Rights people is, well, you can't yell fire in a crowded movie theater. Well, yeah, you can yell fire in a crowded movie theater.
You should if the damn thing's on fire.
That's right. And if you do that, and you do it falsely, and it causes people to get hurt, then you should be held accountable for your action. But we don't ban movie theaters because you can yell fire in them. So we shouldn't ban guns because you can use them to do bad things. The problem is we're not focused on the people taking the action. And it's not even taking the action, it's the result of the action. So in other words, if you yell fire in a crowded movie theater, like you said, and you could be saving lives, just like with a gun. 2.5 million times per year, guns are used to save lives. Or you could yell fire in a crowded movie theater and get people hurt unnecessarily. Just like people can take guns and use them to get people hurt unnecessarily. but we don't ban the theaters, and we shouldn't ban the guns. We should prosecute the people committing the crime. It's so simple that it's stupid.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me see what we got left in show notes. The last one we're going to get to today, this off kvue.com. It's a Texas radio station. On Tuesday, State Senator Roland Gutierrez announced what he calls common sense gun safety legislation that he has filed in response to the tragic shooting at Robb Elementary School last May. In a news release sent out Tuesday morning, Gutierrez's office said the bills addresses purchasing age requirements, a bulk ammunition database, and the safekeeping of firearms. Gutierrez started the conference by saying he's not looking to take guns away. No. I'm sorry, was that external? Rather, he wants the state to raise the age requirement to those who can purchase firearms from 18 to 21. Governor Greg Abbott has previously called such calls unconstitutional, citing cases decided across the country that blocked similar efforts in other states. Gutierrez said the governor is incorrect because the Supreme Court decides constitutionally of policies. One comment from this Gutierrez guy: I've become a one-issue guy. This is all I'm going to talk about for the rest of my life as long as people have me back here. Senator Gutierrez, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals has decided this, and the Fifth Circuit does decide constitutionality for Texas, Mississippi, and Louisiana. So you're wrong there, buddy. Your thoughts, man. We got about 4 minutes left.
It's so much more of the same crap. Purchasing age requirements. In other words, eliminate everyone, under 21 years old from purchasing a gun. Bulk ammunition. They're gonna want you down to 5 rounds a month, or something ridiculous like that. Anything over that will be a box of 50 rounds will be bulk ammunition. And then a database. Database is infuriating to me that they're still talking about this. What a violation. What a constitutional violation. There's laws against that. Federal government cannot keep a database. And then the safekeeping of firearms. This is great how they use these words, the safekeeping. In other words, your firearms will be locked up in your home so you can't use them if you need them. And it's not even that's so dangerous. It's how will they enforce that? Think about the safekeeping of firearms, or in other words, locking up your firearms in your own home. Eventually, they'll want to be able to monitor that, right? And they'll want to inspect those homes. They'll want to inspect those safes. Can you imagine, mandatory inspections of the homes of gun owners to follow up? So it's not necessarily the safekeeping of firearms. It's how will they enforce it that is real concerning to me.
Yeah. Let me get we've got just comments flying in over this. Again, this is somebody I don't have the name for, or I'd give you credit. Facebook user: anyone who says they do not want to take away guns really does. They do, and this is just because these if these proposed laws were to go through, they wouldn't work. And so they would need newer laws that are more restrictive, and it'll get down to the point where, guns are just gone.
Yeah. You're exactly. They're trying to make it so difficult, but we're fighting back. So the good news is we've got the Bruin case in our corner, and we're going to start fighting back on a lot of these cases. I can see a lot of stuff getting turned around because of the historical tradition portion of that law.
Yeah.
Of that case.
Another commenter: I need 40,000 rounds of ammo for a good cause. That's a good start.
At least.
That's a good start. One more comment from Clovertech, and then we got to shut this one down, man. So if someone wants to commit mass murder and there's a 50-round limit per month, and they think they need, say, 300 rounds, they just wait 6 months, which is more time to plan. Good point, Clovertech. Good point. All right. Dan, we got to get out of here, man. We're down at the bottom of the hour. If you would, I'm going to reach over here and I'm going to grab. This is Gun Guy, Good Gun, Bad Guy, Book 2. I've got one over here, but it doesn't show up against the green screen very well. You got a series of 3 of them. If you would plug your books and plug your radio show, man.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me. Thanks, everybody, for watching. You can check out my web show called The Loaded Mic. You can check that out at loadedmic.com. Second Amendment, lots of Second Amendment stuff, but lots of politics of the day. Fun stuff. My co-host John Chair and Anthony Diso, we have a total blast on the show. It's a riot. You're going to die. I swear to God, you're going to crack up. It's silly. So you can watch Loaded Mic, loadedmic.com. And then also Good Gun, Bad Guy, like Paul showed the book. Good Gun, Bad Guy is a 3-book series. Check it out. Everybody seems to love it. We talk about the anti-gun crowd and their strategies and their tactics, and we uncover a lot of their propaganda and rhetoric and nonsense.
Well, and I was wrong. I was wrong. I said no more comments, but I'm going to get this one in. Bobert said 46% of American people are gun owners. That's unacceptable. We should be at least 90%. I would say even more, maybe a little north of that 500 Magnum. There are people, especially those that are so adamantly anti-gun, that I think are just projecting why they shouldn't own guns. They probably shouldn't, but the rest of the American public, yeah. So
we talk a lot about projection on this show, and it's pretty clear when they start talking about other people, they're really talking about themselves. It's fun. It's fun to notice that stuff.
Absolutely. Well, we do got to get out of here. Dan, thank you for coming along today, man. Viewers,
thanks, man. Sorry about the lighting.
No worries at all. We can still see you. Okay. It looks like you're floating in space right now, but we can see you all right. For live viewers, you're going to get a repeat tomorrow of what I recorded this morning. And then Friday, I will be back for the live show with Tom Walls of the Firearms Academy of Seattle. That's going to do it for us today. Thanks for watching, podcast listeners. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you